Hi, I'm Bailey. I'm 33 years old and I only got married 2 years ago. Yeah, I know that's pretty late in life, but I had many goals I wanted to accomplish before I got married. I only managed to get them completed 2 years ago, and here I am. I thought that marriage would be glorious and dreamy, but really, these 2 years seem something like a nightmare. Things are getting better now, but let me tell you about why I said it was nightmarish. I grew up pretty poor, and as I was growing up, I set myself some very particular goals that I knew would make my life better. Of course, because of my lack of financial resources, it took much longer than it usually would have for the average person. Because I was so focused on bettering my life, I never really looked into relationships or even building many meaningful friendships. I had a few good friends from high school, but that was it. I never had a boyfriend or even a crush. All of that changed when I was 28. I happened to meet my husband Archer while we were working on a project together at work. He was collaborating with my company for some advertisement shoots, and we ended up getting along amazingly well. I never felt more comfortable with someone so fast, so when Archer asked me out on a date once we were done with our projects, I did not hesitate to say yes. Needless to say, that one date led to many others. The only downside to dating Archer was that he did not live in my city. He would travel to my city once a month just to spend time with me. He insisted on traveling instead of me doing it because he had family that lived in the same city as me, and he was able to spend time with them too. Regardless of the distance, we began seeing each other seriously. After a year of dating, Archer decided to move to my city. A few months after we moved in, Archer sat me down one day to tell me something he had never told me. Archer went on to tell me that he had had a childhood friend growing up named Nadia. The two of them were super close growing up, and when they were in high school, they began dating. They dated till they graduated from university, after which they got married. They were married for 2 years, but Archer could not keep the relationship going any longer. He told me that he and Nadia were very different people. The only reason that he stayed with her was because he felt pressured to be with her, since his mother absolutely loved Nadia and constantly talked about the two of them being best for each other. After being married to Nadia for 2 years, he finally stood up for himself and decided to tell Nadia his problem. He expected Nadia to be a little understanding, but she became a hateful monster towards him. She made his life miserable up until the divorce was finalized. She turned his entire family against him and even managed to get his other childhood friends to leave him. Archer felt alone for a very long time. So he decided to move to another state. He only came back to work on that project with my company, and by sheer luck, ended up meeting me. He assured me that he had no love for Nadia and that he hadn't spoken to her in years. Honestly, I was expecting something much worse, but I was glad that Archer opened up to me about it and was completely transparent about the situation. He answered any and every question that I had, and even offered to let me scroll through his phone. He did warn me that his mother was still hung up about his divorce because she didn't think Nadia was entirely right, but also not entirely wrong. She figured that Archer had done something wrong, and she just wanted to know what it was. In her eyes, Nadia was perfect for Archer, and she just wanted the two of them to go back together. I figured that over time, Archer's mother, Diana, would come to accept me, and I didn't think too much of it. About 1.5 years into our relationship, Archer asked me if he could introduce me to his family. I was nervous, but I knew that I had to meet his family at some point in time, and the quicker I got it done, the better. Archer's mother, Diana, had scheduled a family dinner with all of Archer's family the weekend after Archer asked me if I wanted to meet his family. Archer decided that he wanted to surprise his mother with me being his new girlfriend, and while I wasn't entirely on board with the idea, I figured it wasn't my family, so I let it be. When we got to Diana's place, I hung back while Archer greeted his mom first. Hi, Mom. Hi, darling. You look so good. Have you been on some sort of diet? No, but I am a man in love, that's for sure. Love? Who is this woman? I hope you don't mind that I brought her here for dinner with us. Oh, she's here, is she? Yeah, I figured I'd introduce her to the family now since we've all met up. All right, where is she? She's taking off her shoes. Hello, I'm Archer's girlfriend, Bailey. Oh, you definitely are something. Thanks. Archer has told me so much about you. And he hasn't seemed to tell me anything about you. I've just been busy with work, not to mention I wanted to give this relationship some time before I started telling people. I'm not people, son. I'm literally your mother. Yeah, I know that, but I still wanted to take some time before introducing Bailey to everyone in my life. So how long have both of you been together? Around 1.5 years, I think. You've been seeing someone for a whole year? And you haven't said anything? You'd think that at least at some point you'd tell your own mother about your relationship, but I guess this generation doesn't do things like that. Oh, come on, Mom. Stop being dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. But since you've been dating this girl, I hope that she's up to the standard. I'm sorry, what do you mean by standard? Well, I don't know if Archer told you or not, given that he likes to keep things to himself until he's comfortable with sharing things. But he used to be married before. Nadia was his high school best friend and they ended up getting married. She's pretty much set the standard for every woman that Archer was with. Jeez, you have to stop saying things like that. You make me sound like some horrible guy who couldn't get over his ex. I do know about his ex, but thank you for still telling me about it. I'm just letting you know that Nadia played a huge role in this family, and it'll be a while before anyone really accepts you. Are you up for that? As long as I can be by Archer's side, I'll be up for anything. Okay, let's eat food. Whatever you cook, Mom, smells heavenly. Right off the bat, I knew that Diana did not like me. I was a little upset about it, but I let it go because I figured she just needed some more time. Well, I was very wrong. I dated Archer for another 2 years, and during the entire time, Diana would constantly make comparisons between Nadia and I. She'd keep bringing her up, and that's when I realized why Archer had actually moved to another city. I would not have been able to continue living in a place where my mother constantly reminded me about my past relationship. Archer and I got married after dating for 3.5 years, and while it was the best day of my life, the months leading up to the wedding were not fun at all. Diana kept trying to convince Archer that he was making a mistake by marrying me. That stung really bad. I mean, it would be one thing if she did that behind my back, but she would tell Archer that I was a horrible choice for him while standing with me. Archer never listened to her, obviously, and would always stand up for me, which I was very grateful for. Unfortunately, that only made Diana hate me more. Eventually, I learned to just let her hateful comments roll off my back. Even though Archer and I weren't too keen on having kids, I ended up falling pregnant just 1 year into our marriage. Archer and I were over the moon about the pregnancy, and so was Diana. She treated me a lot better during my pregnancy and even for a little while after I gave birth. It was great to not listen to her nag Archer for not doing the right thing and marrying someone better. I managed to get 1 year of maternity leave from work, and once that year was almost done, I realized that I did not want to be separated from my baby for the entire time that I worked. After a lot of discussions with Archer, we realized that I could afford to not work for at least the next 3 years. I had more than enough in my savings, and Archer made enough to support all of us. So I quit my job and became a stay-at-home mom. About 5 months after I quit my job, Diana asked us if she could stay with us for a while because her house was being renovated. Since we were on better terms at that time, Archer and I decided that we would let her stay with us. A week into our stay, Diana asked me why I wasn't going to work over dinner. So how come I haven't seen you go to work, Bailey? Oh, that's because I quit my job to be a stay-at-home mom. Yeah, we figured that would be the best course of action for us. The best course of action was for Bailey to give up her independence and fully depend on you, especially when you have a child. It's more of Bailey struggling with a lot of things and this being the best way to lighten her mental load. Not to mention, if Bailey continued to work, we'd end up having the extra bill of a nanny. That sounds like a load of hogwash. What kind of things are you even struggling with, Bailey? Well, I am a new mother and I'm doing my post-grad simultaneously, and that's not easy to juggle with work. So you choose to leech off my son instead of finding a way to provide for your family? Mom, I'm not leeching off of Archer. I never forced him to make that decision. He wanted to make things easier for me and I was grateful for it. You and I both know that you found a way to manipulate him into wanting to help you out. Women like you are just like that. I told Archer that marrying you was a mistake, but he never wanted to listen. And now look, you're already bleeding him dry. That is enough. You've said enough. I'm just expressing my opinions. There's no need for you to get all worked up. You don't have to express every opinion you have. Oh, please, I only have one opinion, and it's that Bailey is a horrible wife for you. You shouldn't have left Nadia at all. Is that what this is all about? It's been 6 years since we got divorced. Why are you still hooked on her when I forgot all about her? That's the problem. How could you have forgotten about her so fast? Did she mean nothing to you at all? She did for a long time, and now she doesn't. Let go of the past. I'm happier now than I've ever been. Isn't that what matters? You're just lying to yourself about your happiness. You look so much more exhausted now than you did before. Bailey was a terrible choice. Once you realize it, I will not hold myself back from telling you that I told you so. And just like that, Diana and I were back to being on square one. She was back to hating my entire being. I didn't see why Diana had such a big problem with things when I wasn't doing anything horrible. I was still contributing to family expenses through my savings, although I didn't see why she needed to know that. The rest of Diana's stay was awkward and I couldn't have been happier than when she left. But even though she wasn't staying with us, it didn't stop her from coming over at any time of the day just to bash me for being a stay-at-home mom and remind Archer over and over again that he made the biggest mistake of his life. We usually ignored her and gradually began pretending we weren't home either. And then the holidays came around. Even though we did not want to interact with Diana, we wanted to meet the rest of Archer's family. So we made our way over to Diana's place for the huge dinner that she had organized for us. We were excited to spend some quality time with our family, but that excitement died pretty much as soon as we walked into the house. Standing right in the middle of the living room was Nadia, Archer's ex-wife. I think I was too shocked to even speak. I couldn't believe that Diana had gone as far as to invite Nadia to Christmas dinner for the family. Archer was fuming. He grabbed my hand and dragged me over to the kitchen where Diana was busy with the food and confronted Diana. Mom! Hi, sweetie. Merry Christmas. I'm so glad you made it just in time for dinner. Why's Nadia here? Nadia? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you I invited her. How could you have possibly forgotten to tell me that you invited my ex-wife? I feel like that's something you could never forget to tell someone. Oh, you know me. I was so wrapped up in planning for this party that it completely slipped my mind. That's a pathetic excuse and you know that. You need to get her out of here or Bailey and I will leave. Oh, come on. There's no need to be so dramatic. Of course there's a need to be dramatic. You're being beyond disrespectful to Bailey and me. Disrespectful? How in the world am I doing that? You know very well how you're being disrespectful towards us. I know that you're not happy that Nadia and I got divorced, but that happened years ago. You constantly bringing her back is not going to change anything. You need to let it go or you're going to end up losing me. It's not my fault that you found someone who's worlds apart from Nadia. If you'd at least brought home some amazing woman, I'd be able to make peace with the fact that you let go of Nadia. I've had enough. You need to let her go right now, or Bailey and I are leaving. Whoa, what's all this noise about? Everyone's curious to know why there's so much yelling happening on Christmas. Nadia, you need to leave now. Nonsense, Nadia, sweetie. You can stay as long as you like. Everyone is just as uncomfortable with Nadia being here as I am. This is my house, so my rules. I want Nadia to stay, so she will. You heard her. You know your mom is right. If you had just found a better woman than me, you wouldn't have to deal with me in your life always. Okay, we can have this conversation afterward. Why don't we just have dinner first? Archer, stop throwing a tantrum and sit at the table. I slogged to make this food all day, and the last thing I want is for you to be an ungrateful brat. Never in a million years did I think that Diana was capable of being so insensitive. Nor did I expect Nadia to be so much like Diana. I had hoped that Diana was simply being delusional about her wants for Archer and Nadia. But apparently, Nadia was just as hung up on Archer and wanted him back. Dinner was awkward and tense. Everyone heard the yelling, but I wasn't sure if they heard what the yelling was about. I actually couldn't bring myself to care about whether everyone knew what Archer and Diana were yelling about. I was just sitting in shock the entire time while Archer looked furious. After everyone was done eating their dinner, Diana and Nadia busied themselves with clearing the table and talking amongst themselves in the kitchen. That's when Archer's brother Jerry asked Archer what the commotion in the kitchen was all about. Now that dinner's over, do you want to tell me what all that commotion was about earlier? What commotion? Oh, come on, stop playing dumb. You and Mom were having this serious conversation that at some point became pretty loud. If it was loud, you would know what happened then. Why are you asking me? Yeah, it got loud, but we didn't get to hear anything. We just heard your voices get loud, but we couldn't make out what was being said. Does that have anything to do with Nadia? It's none of your business anyway. Stop asking me about it. Jeez, somebody woke up on the wrong side of the bed today. Oh, don't worry about it, Jerry. Archer's just throwing a tantrum like a child. Yeah, and if you'd respected me and my relationship just a little bit, I wouldn't be behaving this childish. Your mother made herself clear. You just don't like the fact that she was speaking the truth. There's no need to ruin our Christmas over this. No, I made myself clear as well. I don't like how my mom keeps inserting you into my family even though we split up 8 years ago. I told you that I wasn't happy with who you chose to settle with. Is that all that really matters? My worth in your eyes should decide if you treat Archer with respect. You have no right to talk to Diana that way. If anything, I have more of a right given that I'm a part of her family and you're not. You need to stay out of this. Come on, Bailey, let's go. This is a horrible way to spend our Christmas. Oh, fine. If you just answer one question, I'll stop involving Nadia in your life. I don't care. Enough for it. Why did you downgrade to a stay-at-home mom, son? Especially since your ex-wife makes $800,000 a year. Do you know how stable you would have been? You just gave up on everything to settle with someone who makes you work until you can't breathe to support her. Nadia's making $800,000 a year? And who told you that? Nadia herself. I mean, look at her. She exudes wealth. There's nothing on her that isn't a big brand. Oh, wait. I just remembered why this lady looks so familiar to me. What on earth are you talking about, Liz? I'm sorry, but since she got here, I haven't been able to shake off the fact that she looked really familiar. I've been trying to place her, and I just realized where I saw her. Do you even know where I saw her? No, where did you see her? She was my waitress at Arby's. What? Oh, yeah. The other day, my friends and I went to Arby's for dinner, and she was our waitress. She was really mean and even messed our orders up. I think right before we left, I saw her getting yelled at by her manager, and she yelled back at him. And then he asked her for her badge. Oh, wait. I guess that means that she no longer has a job, so how is she making $800,000 a year? Nadia? Is this true? Say something. When Nadia remained silent, everyone burst out laughing. Nadia turned red in the face and did not look up at all. Diana looked like her entire world had crumbled. Nadia quickly grabbed her things and left after that. Everybody talked quite a bit about the turn of events for a while until Diana eventually told everyone that she was too tired to stay up and asked us to leave. Archer and I had a good laugh about the whole thing on our way back home. We were so glad that karma came back to bite Nadia and Diana, and we didn't even have to do anything. Archer and I found ourselves laughing every so often about the whole situation randomly over the next week. Diana insulted me so much for not working, yet she believed just about anything that Nadia said without even checking to see if Nadia truly was the better option. A week after Christmas dinner, Diana and Nadia came over to our place. I was very surprised to see the two of them there and foolishly let them into the house throughout our conversation. Oh, hi Diana, hi Nadia. What are you guys doing here? We're here to talk to you and Archer. And before you even try to lie and tell me that Archer isn't home, I can see his car in the driveway. Oh, I wasn't going to. Can we come in or not? Sure. Who was that at the door? Oh, hi, Mom. Nadia? What are you two doing here? We just came here to talk to you and Bailey. All right, we're here now. What do you want to talk about? What you both did on Christmas dinner was not okay. Huh? What do you mean? We didn't do anything. Don't even try to play dumb. Bailey, you can act like a saint all you want, but I know just what kind of evil lives within you. I have no idea what you're talking about, Diana. She's talking about how the both of you humiliated me in front of everyone. Excuse me? Embarrassed you, Nadia? You've got to be kidding me. How could we have possibly embarrassed you? You threw a fit about me being there and then laughed at me for being a waitress. We didn't laugh at you for being a waitress. We laughed at you because you were there acting like you were better than all of us. When the truth came spilling out, you had nothing to say. That was funny. So you think laughing at someone who's struggling is funny? Not only are you a horrible wife to my son, but you're also a despicable human being. Okay, that's enough. You want to talk about being despicable? Then we need to talk about both you and Nadia. Bailey and I have told you multiple times to leave Nadia out of things because we don't feel comfortable with her being around. You refuse to listen to us. Instead, the two of you banded together to make Bailey and me as uncomfortable as possible. I know without a doubt that both of you were trying your best to break my marriage apart so I could get back with Nadia. But let me tell you, that would never happen. I want both of you out of my house right now. I never want to talk to either of you, and I mean it. Are you seriously going to cut off contact with us when you were the one that insulted Nadia? You do realize that the only reason we even tried that hard was to get you to realize that you settled for someone who was way below your standards. I only wanted what was best for you, and I wanted to remind you of when you had a better life. You think a lying and manipulative woman is the best for your son? That's not what I meant. Nadia only lied because she was embarrassed, and none of you made her feel any better. If she was so embarrassed, she shouldn't have showed up to dinner in the first place. She shouldn't have acted like she was superior to me when she knew that she was the one who was worse off. Trying to humiliate me and break my marriage was not the way to go about doing things. Archer has never had a problem with you interacting with Nadia because he understood that you loved her. I also had no problem with that for the same reason, even though you treated me like trash. But ever since you started trying to put Nadia in between Archer and me, I felt nothing but anger towards you guys. I've been the one facing all the humiliation for so long. Nadia faced it for one night from people she never has to face again. She'll live. With that said, you two need to get out of my home right now before I call the cops. I had to try really hard to control my laughter from spilling out on the faces of disbelief and anger on Diana and Nadia. They tried to fight Archer on it further, and they kept trying for around 5 minutes. And that's when Archer had enough, and he called the police and asked them to help him escort unwanted guests from his house. That only made Diana lose her mind more. She began screaming and yelling at us for being ungrateful and selfish. She continued to tell Archer that I was the worst mistake that he made, and that he would come to regret it. She told him that since it took him so long to regret marrying me, she was trying to take things into her own hands. She said she only did that because she wanted Archer to do the best thing for himself. The best thing he could do, according to Diana, was to go back to Nadia, so he could find his way back to who he really was. Nadia had a panicked look on her face, but she made no move to stop Diana from continuing on her rant. 2 police officers arrived at our place only 5 minutes after we called them. Diana was still screaming her lungs out as the police escorted her and Nadia out of the house. Apparently screaming at us for 15 minutes was not enough, because Diana continued to harass Archer and me over text for not understanding her whole idea. Of course, we did not want to hear any of it, so we blocked her. For a long while, it was quiet on Diana's side. At first, Archer and I were apprehensive about her silence, but as we reached the 2-week mark without any sort of communication from her, we began to relax. That was a mistake on our part. As soon as we let our guard down, Diana came back to our place and tried her best to get Archer to leave me and get with Nadia. She tried to emotionally blackmail him by telling him about how much Nadia was struggling. She tried to tug on his heartstrings by bringing up their childhood memories. But Archer refused to budge. That made Diana irrationally upset, and she began to wail. She looked at me with so much anger and resentment in her eyes that I was genuinely terrified of her. She suddenly stopped crying and just looked at me that way. For a moment, I genuinely thought that she was going to hurt me, and apparently Archer thought the same thing, because within a second, he was standing in front of me to protect me. Thankfully, Diana snapped out of her trance within seconds, and she quietly left our porch. Needless to say, I never wanted to be around Diana again. I got a restraining order against her, and I haven't seen or heard from her in months, which, by the way, have been the best months of my life. Archer went no contact with his mother as well. Last we heard, everyone in Archer's family began slowly distancing themselves from Diana. Apparently, she became unhinged and full of hatred towards me, and that made people uncomfortable. I still have no idea how any of us missed just how obsessed Diana was with Nadia and Archer's relationship, but boy, am I glad that I no longer have to deal with her. Now, it's time for me to move on to better things.